the beams. It's Cass with the dreams. Podcast supreme. Fill the airwaves with steam. Kate in the mix. Choreography tricks. Sipping on the brew while we jump, flip, and kick. Katie on the mic. Shimmy, shake all night. Dance floor ignite. Caffeine take flight. Podcast on blast. We move it real fast. Coffee in the mug and a G to the last. Coffee and choreo. Let's go turbo. Host Cass, Kate, Katie in the zone flow. Podcast alive. Caffeine and vibes. Dance till we drop. No sleep, just thrive.
Welcome to Coffee and Choreo. I'm Cassidy.
I'm Caitlin.
And I'm Katie.
And today we are talking about attendance.
I feel like this is the topic that coaches and parents equally hate.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, attendance for us has been something that has been a learning process. And it's not been a fun one.
No. And I feel like we have so many kids that do other things, and we tried to take that into account. At least I did this year when making the schedule. I mean, we have so many hybrids between the cheer and dance, and sometimes it can cause attendance issues, but we make it work. Y'all's attendance policy, I kind of did what y'all did last year and did it this year. Remind me what it is. It's like you get 3 absences.
Yeah, so this year it is, you get 3 unexcused absences, and then we start removing you from parts of the routine. But so just to give a little bit of background, so when we first opened the gym 5 years ago, we were pretty much lenient with everything. And that mainly came from me being a multi-sport athlete when I was in high school. And I remember when my coaches kind of gave me an ultimatum, they were like, you're either going to do this or you're going to do this. And I was like, listen, I'm not going to do it if you make me choose. Like, if my cheer coach was the one delivering the ultimatum, I'd be like, I'm not choosing you.
Yeah.
Same for my basketball coach. So I wanted athletes to be able to do everything that they wanted to do, but in the end, we were not successful.
Yeah. No.
It was really hard. I think it was harder than what we have now. And so we have slowly changed our attendance policy to what it is now, and I love it now.
Yeah, me too.
So we have, excused absences are funerals, weddings, vomiting, doctor's notes, or like running a fever of 100.4 and higher. Unexcused, and this is the part that parents hate, is school events that are not graded. School cheer, school sports, anything like that is considered unexcused now.
Yeah.
And that was the hardest change, and we did lose some athletes over that, but honestly we're better for it. Not saying that those athletes made the change, but the attendance as a whole made a significant change, and our readiness and everything else.
Yeah. It's so hard and I was actually talking to my mom about this the other day, and because with dance, like, we don't do, like, if someone's missing, it's still hard, but like with cheer, like, if someone's missing from a stunt, you can't do the stunt. You can't.
Yeah.
And so, but with dance, it's hard for me because I'll clean a part in the dance and then someone's absent, and then they come back the next week. Oh, and we got to start again. And
you have to teach it twice.
Yes,
essentially.
and
It's so annoying.
And yeah,
It's like choreographing routines. I mean, in the beginning, obviously, it's mandatory choreography dates and stuff, but when we start filling in the routine with motions or like dance, like, I had people absent from dance because they were sick, or because there were unexcused absences that just fell on the day that we were starting to choreograph dance. And I absolutely hate teaching things twice.
Yeah.
Hate it. And then on top of it, like, do so many dances and choreography and stuff that when that kid comes back, you're like, what are the motions again? Because, like, I don't remember. I did 4 teams in just like 3 days. Like, you know what I mean?
feel you
like
on that one, yeah.
It's like, I don't remember.
Yeah.
And
I always
And
say
so it
it's
gets
their
really
job to
hard.
remember. It's
Yeah.
their job to tell you one time and then remember.
you have to remember it, not me.
Yeah.
And I'll also preface this by saying, like, our attendance policy, I know it's strict, but we don't have that the whole year. For, like, the summertime, so June, July, and August, we pretty much allow whatever. I think we allow
Yeah.
like 5 absences,
Yeah.
which is like a 2-week vacation. We made sure, so we have 3 practice days for cheer. So we have like 2 normal practice days and then like a skills day. Our skills days wasn't even mandatory. So you essentially got 4 more absences a month. So I mean,
Yeah.
that was pretty easy to abide by. And then also we're pretty generous when it comes to holiday breaks.
Yeah.
So like we're closed on Halloween, which a lot of
Thanksgiving.
gyms
Yeah.
don't close for. We're closed the whole week of Thanksgiving, 2 weeks of Christmas, the whole week of spring break. So we try to schedule around those important dates. But one that I want to touch base with on is like Halloween, because we just had that. And I know a lot of gyms don't close for Halloween. And I remember seeing like a post from a coach saying that, oh my God, I can't believe these kids don't want to come to practice on Halloween. You know, I think we got to take into perspective when we do attendance is that what's important to kids. And so like,
These kids.
yeah, like
I
there's
think
still
that-
kids, even my high
Yeah.
schoolers want to go out and dress up for Halloween.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I think it's like going back like to like a mental health break, and it's Halloween and it's fun and they need that because I mean they can get burnt out on it, and so that one day is not gonna affect them if they don't have practice on Halloween. And honestly, I think it'll refresh them.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a give and take.
Yeah.
It is. And I mean, it just, absences are always going to affect the way that your team is performing. So like in the past when we had been more lenient with absences, I feel like our teams were not as good or like well prepared for competitions. And then now, because we're so much stricter with kids needing to be at practice, that they are better off in where they're at. I mean, given I feel like this first competition this season kind of showed like
Yeah.
you know, when kids are at practice and they have to be there, then it's gonna show at competition. And like another thing, like we want kids to be able to do multiple sports, and we do try to work with them in their schedules, and sometimes it still conflicts even though we try our hardest. But we also allow our kids to be up to an hour late, so that without being absent. And it has to be obviously like pretty much like a good reason, or like them telling us in advance. So we have kids who play basketball, junior high basketball, and they usually show up like 30 minutes late, and it's excused because 1, it's pre-talked about, and then 2, we want the kids to be able to do other things. 30 minutes isn't going to kill us. It takes our teams like 15 to go ahead and just warm up. So we can do things without those kids, and then when they get there, work on the things that we need with those kids.
Yeah, and then also that's compromising, because these are kids who are, by every definition, an athlete, and they choose to be on the B team so that they can play basketball and still come to cheer practice. You know, so we're willing to compromise because they're compromising. And I think that's the biggest thing for parents to understand. If you're willing to compromise, I can almost guarantee your coach is also willing to compromise. If they're not willing to compromise, then that may not be the best program for you.
No, absolutely.
But yeah, I mean, if athletes and parents can compromise, I'll almost always compromise,
if
as long
we
as it's a
say-
good compromise.
Yeah, if we say like you can be up to an hour late, just make sure she gets here by 6 o'clock, and parent is saying like, no, we're gonna have to miss the whole practice. Like, no, now you can't miss that. You can't miss at all.
Yeah.
I gave you the hour.
tried.
I gave you the hour compromise. No more, because you're not working with me. I mean,
And it's just a sacrifice people have to understand when it comes to cheer or even dance, that this is a highly competitive sport, and especially in cheer. If your athlete is missing, there's parts of our routine we can't even touch. We can't touch stunts. We can't touch pyramid, maybe baskets. And I think that's the hardest part for parents to accept, because like with basketball, softball, volleyball, whatever, there's subs, and there are no subs in cheer.
nope.
And so that's just part of the consequences of being an all-star athlete, is that
I feel like
you
I've
gotta
had this-
give it up.
I feel like I've had this discussion with Riley so many times. Like, if I'm venting to him about like, so-and-so wasn't at practice today because of this and this and that, or I'll be like, yeah, so-and-so is saying that like they're gonna be late today or because of this and this and this, and he's always like, is it excused? And I'm like, no. And he's like, y'all are so mean. Da, 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 da. And of course he's like doing it to like rile me up and like make me mad. But at the same time, I'm like, you have no idea how lenient we are with absences and these kids being late and missing skills practices. And that's another thing is like, technically we need all the kids there for skills practices, but if a kid has other commitments that they like, one of our kids, she does pageants, and she has an obligation as a queen to have been at something, and so the give was like, okay, you can be late, or okay, you can be absent for that because it's technically not mandatory even though we want you all here.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. But I feel like I'm always in this little argument with Riley, even though it really is just to make me mad about like, no, that is not excused. Or like funerals, when the topic of a funeral came up and Riley was like, is that excused? And I'm like, yes, Riley, it's excused.
It's hard, and I know this was probably one of the hardest decisions I've had as a gym owner, is that we have what's called a blackout week, and you can't miss whatsoever. Like, absolutely nothing is excused. Like,
Yep.
And
You
that,
sick, put on a mask.
that includes my excused list. Like, it's not excused.
Yeah.
And it's just because it's the week of competition, it's go time. Like, you cannot be fully prepared if you can't practice the week of that competition.
And we had kids show up to practice sick
Yeah.
So
with
y'all-
mask on.
So what, have y'all had it where another kid didn't show up?
So
Like, do you take them out of the
I
routine?
honestly hate this story. I hate it because it put me
Well,
in such
I'm
a bad
curious,
position.
because if I had to take
Oh,
it out
girl,
of
I'll
the
tell you.
routine,
I'll tell you. And I'm just going to preface
yes,
this.
we've had a
And I'm just going
situation.
to preface this by saying the athlete that this involved, I have no hard feelings towards the family and everything. I think it was an incredibly difficult position for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Because as a gym owner, I have to set the standard of, if I have an attendance policy, I have to abide by it.
Yep.
And
Can't be
so
lenient
I
for one
can't
person.
be lenient for one person because then I have to be lenient for every person. So this athlete had a sudden death in their family, and they had a funeral the week of competition. And I even encouraged this family. I was like, listen, if she misses, it's really not a big deal. I have so-and-so that can fill in her spot. They weren't even going against anyone at this competition for that team. So, like, it really wasn't a big deal. And so they were less than ecstatic that I said, if she misses this practice, she won't be able to go to competition. And, of course, I was made out to be the worst person in the world. And I can understand. Like, I truly can understand, you know, when you're grieving and, you know, you're trying to also handle everything else, that it can be incredibly hard. But I said it multiple times. I'm like, really? Like, we can have someone fill in. I encourage you to take the weekend off, not worry about it. But that wasn't good enough for them. And I was trying to compromise. Like, they were letting me know what time the funeral was and everything else. And I'm like, okay, listen, if I can have her for the first 30 minutes of practice, like, I can give that compromise. I know it's a difficult time for y'all. And they managed to make that work. But in the end, after that competition, that family left, which, again, I can understand. Again, no hard feelings towards that family. It just sucked.
Is what it
It
is,
really
yeah.
sucked. Like, and if I had to do that again, I would make the same decision, unfortunately. You know, if it's the week of competition and there's a funeral for a family, I would encourage that family, you know, why don't y'all just take the weekend off if you're not going to be able to attend practice? I understand that's an incredibly difficult decision to make, and, you know, your athlete's going to be upset. But again, like, that's our attendance policy, and I can't be lenient for one family and not the other. And I know some people are probably going to hear this and be like, oh my God, she's a terrible gym owner. But I mean, I promise I'm really not.
And honestly, I've seen attendance policies at other gyms that are way more harsh. Like,
Oh, you can't do anything.
you're not allowed, they make you sign a contract where you're not allowed to do any other kind of sport/activity except for competitive cheer. And so, like, they're not allowed to do school sports. They're not allowed to do anything else recreational. You sign your life away to be at this gym. That way it doesn't conflict with any of our stuff. You have no reason to not be here. And so, and all the more power to them. I mean, like, if I had thousands of kids and was able to do that, hell yeah. But no, like,
As a,
I mean,
as a D2 gym owner, like
you can't do that.
you can't do that.
You can't do that.
I would
That
probably
would
have
not be the smart thing
think
to
I
do.
would have
You'd be
30
out of
kids.
kids. Yeah,
Yeah.
you would be out of kids. It's not smart to do. And I mean also like there's two different types of people when it comes to competitive cheer. There are the Katies who want to do all the other sports and competitive cheer, and there are the Cassidys who are diehard competitive cheer and school cheer. I don't want to do anything else. I quit all my other sports. This is what I want to do. And so like,
But here's the life lesson though too, is that you could be the Cassidy or you could be the Katie, but you can still both be successful.
yes,
Because I made everything work. I remember
Yep.
running into practice after a basketball game, still in my basketball uniform, and like I think y'all are in the middle of like going through a mark, and I just jump right in.
Yeah, I've seen out there some girls in their uniforms, their school
Yes,
uniforms,
yeah.
doing practice.
yeah, we have kids show up either after games, and they leave their games early and come and practice, or we have kids who show up to practice in their uniform and then leave early to go cheer at a game. We've had kids who are high school kids whose teams are in the playoffs, and one of them literally came and worked, had practice, and then put her uniform on and went to the playoff game to go cheer.
Yep.
So, I mean, like, there are kids who want to be here. Like, I mean, if you make the sacrifice, I mean, I got fired from my job senior year because I was like, I can't work. I have practice. And there was nothing I do about it. I told
high school.
Route 21.
Really?
Yeah. And I that was my second year working there, and I was like,
Wasn't
you've
your
known.
boss? Didn't her daughter go to the gym, or am I thinking of someone different?
I think you're thinking of someone different.
Okay.
But I was just like, you've known for the past 2 years I can't work Wednesdays and Sundays. You know that. Those are my days. And they tried to schedule me on a Wednesday, telling me like there was no exceptions. I was like,
Just because you're short staffed
yeah, I was like,
doesn't
that's not my
mean.
fault. I was like,
That's not my
I
problem.
told you in advance, and I was just like, no, I can't show up. And
Yeah.
so they fired me because I was still on the thing, even though I told them I couldn't do
Imagine
it.
being short staffed and then also making yourself shorter staffed.
I know. So, and now they do not exist.
Yeah, they're not here.
Bye, Route
RIP,
21.
Route 21.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there are sacrifices you have to make. I mean, was my parents happy that I lost my job? No, but did they understand that it wasn't my fault? Yes. And then YMCA gave me a job coaching gymnastics, so it all worked out in the end. All worked out in the
I
end.
worked for the YMCA too.
Really? I remember I had to teach kids Zumba too. It was fun.
Oh.
Very fun.
I have openings.
No.
One thing One thing I also wanted to talk about, because when you were talking about like school cheer too, and listen, I'm happy to upset a lot of school cheer coaches, but y'all have got to learn to compromise. You have got to stop
Period.
giving these kids demerits. There was one school that like literally made me want to pull my hair out because they emailed me and they were like, hey, like this is what's going to happen if your athletes miss this game. And I'm like, you know, I pretty much replied as respectful as possible. I was like, I understand you have an attendance policy, but I do too. I do too. And it's not fair for you to say, well, I'm going to uphold mine and you don't get to uphold yours. And I even sent them a compromise asking, can they attend half of this game and they'll still make it to half of my practice? You can give a little bit on your policy. I'll give a little bit on my policy. Never responded. They never responded to me. And those girls got demerits. And, you know, that has
Demerit.
been, yeah.
Okay, we didn't have, okay, like, so the school that we went to, we didn't have those. And whenever, like, whenever I started coaching in, like, all these other towns that, you know, we have, and they're talking about demerits, and it's like, it baffles me because it's like, if you get to 20 demerits, you're kicked off the team, but missing a practice is worth 10. What? Like, there is no consistency in, like, the number of demerits for, like, each thing. And it's like, okay, you miss one practice,
Yeah.
it should be one
Do you
demerit.
think
Like,
demerit is even a thing?
it drives me
yeah.
insane.
That's-
If it
just
makes
that
you feel any
word.
better, our school still doesn't. They
Oh, no, Cassidy.
Starts recording again. Okay.
editing's gonna suck, but it'll be okay. I'm so sorry.
If Cassidy screwed this up and it looks crazy, it's all her fault.
I'm sorry.
What were you saying?
But anyways,
Demerit.
our
Why is that a thing?
our school still doesn't do demerits. But all the surrounding schools still do, and I'm like so happy because like the kids that do go to the school that we went to, even they're like, that's insane, because we've never had problems with the school that we went to over conflicts, never, because they don't do unnecessary things like demerits, whereas all these other schools are just like, I feel like they're almost sitting on a high horse and threatening to use these demerits, and it's like,
And granted,
Aren't
we're
we
not
supposed to be-
saying that's the worst thing in the world. We have our own attendance policy. Unexcused absences are equivalent to your demerit. Yeah, don't pull it out again.
She was getting feisty. She was like, "Arr!"
But, you know, I think my biggest thing is keep your demerits. That's fine. Like, do your demerit system, whatever works for
Write
you.
me a demerit.
Right? But that gotta
Please.
compromise.
compromise.
I remember my freshman year. I kid you not, I think I went to one JV game because I had dance on Thursdays. That's when the JV games were. And I kid you not, I think I went to one or two because I could not miss dance. I couldn't.
Yeah.
And we couldn't switch the practices, couldn't switch the games, and the coach just worked with me.
Yeah.
And it is what it is. And then I was there, I guess in the spring, like basketball season, like I think I made it up to it and stuff like that.
I would
But
say I missed parades and community events and all this kind of stuff because of competitions. And that was several of us. I think half of our high school cheer team was all-star cheerleaders. Not once did she get on to us about it. Not once did she complain. If we had jobs to go to and had to leave cheer practice early, okay, bye, see you next time. And honestly, we were a good team.
I think it helped a
We
lot
were a
'cause
great team.
She had a daughter that was involved in a lot of other things,
Yeah.
so I think that helped a lot, especially when I was, because we were in the same grade. It did, and she understood. Okay, I forget.
Poor Kenny.
I forget. Kenny, I'm talking into the mic. I'm sorry. But yeah, I was thinking about that. I think I went to 2 games, and it was easy. I mean, I hated that I missed them, but also I wish they would do morning practices before school.
No, I would cry. I had morning practices in college and I cried.
But it's so hard for these girls. Like, I see these girls, like, they go from school all day, cheer practice, and then they come straight to me.
Well, I also
like,
think
if we split it up.
I think a lot of these schools also don't do cheer class like we had, where it was built into the actual school schedule.
Yep.
So we practiced during school time, and then that was another reason why we were able to have jobs and do competitive cheer and stuff. And like now, a lot of these high school teams, they don't have a cheer class, almost like an athletics. So like football, basketball, baseball, volleyball, whatever, they have athletics where they get to practice in the mornings or in the afternoons, and it just runs over. A lot of these schools don't have that for their cheer programs, and we were lucky to be able to have that, and we would run over practice wise, but I think that's another reason why it's making it really hard for athletes to be able to attend practices there and practices here, is because there's no time allocated through the actual school schedule. I mean, in my eyes, they're athletes too, so I feel like there should be.
Like, that should be their
That's their
PE
athletics
credit or whatever.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm ready for the rest of my girls. They're going to have the Friday night games and not the Tuesday night games with middle school.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, well, I guess the freshmen will be Thursday. Oh, man, thinking about the schedule next year. Because I do. This year, I tried so hard. It was the hardest thing I've ever done.
Fair warning that we made our schedule based off of what
The previous
was
years.
known to be the football schedule at the time. So at the time, our junior high was having games on Tuesday for football, and our high school obviously on Friday. So a couple, like our youth level 4 team, they have some athletes who are 7th grade cheerleaders, and so they had a practice. So they practice Mondays and Thursdays. School starts and they change football's schedule to Thursdays.
Oh, my gosh.
Yeah. thankfully, the junior high coach for Smithville has been wonderful to work
Yeah,
with.
absolutely.
And I appreciate her. And so the girls were able to do both. I would let them go early and everything to make it to the games. But we can plan all we want, but that doesn't mean district ain't going to change it.
Yeah.
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 And we weren't able to switch anything around because it would conflict with like our older
'Cause
kids
then
who
you have
have
to once you
high
change one
school
thing, then it
sports.
changes another, and then you're like,
yeah.
oh my
So
goodness, I had this big whiteboard trying to do it, and it still
Luckily-
wasn't perfect.
luckily though, our parents for those said kids that it conflicted with were wonderful about it, and we're kind of like on our side, like basically saying like sorry to like the or the middle school coaches and being like, sorry, I don't know what to tell you. Their schedule has been out since May. This was changed in August. I don't know what you want us to do about it. Like the girls will not be there or you're going to have to compromise. So that's another good thing about when we talk about absences and other sports is if your parents are on board with your policy and if they're not. Because if they're on board with your policy, they're going to do everything they can to make sure their kid does not have an unexcused absence.
Yep.
If they're not on board with your policy, it's going to create some conflict with your coaches and in the end might lead to your child either being taken out of specifically stunts, because if you're not there, that's the one thing we can't do. And then if we still continue to have issues, they're not going to be on the team anymore.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've already had to have conversations with parents about absences, and I know parents, when their kid gets that second unexcused absence, which it's November and we were already at that with some kids, and
I am too.
if parents are like, well, there's nothing that we can do about it, and I'm like, I understand, but there's nothing I can do about it either. Like, this is the policy. I can't bend it for you.
Yeah.
I can't bend it for anyone.
No matter how much I love your kid,
I
I'm not
love
even going
all
to
of
bend
your
the
children.
I promise I'm not even going to bend the policy for my own kid.
Yeah.
My own kid hasn't even missed a practice.
Yeah.
You know, regardless of what we were doing as a family or anything.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah, I mean, and I know there's always that fear of, okay, well, if she has another one, what's going to happen? Well, I don't know. We're not there yet.
Yeah.
Don't have another unexcused absence.
Mhm.
And I know sometimes there's things out of our control, but when you get to that third one, then we can have a conversation. But there's no point in hashing out what's going to happen if you do get that third one, because you never
Just
know if we're ever going to get there.
plan to not get it.
Just don't
do it.
Yeah, just don't do it.
And to make it clear, this is something that we lay out at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, so
during
this is a
auditions and
surprise.
tryouts.
This
Like,
is in the tryout
yeah.
packet.
And
Like,
so
they see it.
Just saying it to our audience, like, this is not a surprise. They're not. They shouldn't be blindsided when we do have that conversation of you're at your second unexcused absence. Like,
And they signed the tryout packet.
Yeah.
And they signed the contract stating all the things.
And like put it in perspective too, you know, I had this conversation with a coach of like a school coach, is that when I was in high school, did you spill it on yourself?
I said, this goes together.
And then as she was doing that, in my head, I was looking around for my phone, and it's right there.
That's what you were doing. You were like, I was like, and you know what? I was like, I started thinking, I was like, it probably fell on the couch.
Okay, Katie,
God
resume.
bless.
Sorry,
I don't even know what I was talking about.
We were talking about the packets, the trial packets.
Oh, I know what I was saying. In perspective, when I was in,
Sponsor me.
I'm done.
I'm sorry, Katie. Keep going.
What was the thing?
I don't know.
Packets.
The packet.
No, it wasn't about packets.
You signed a commitment.
No, but for real. What I was saying is like, for like high school athletes, when I was in high school, our basketball program was like a really good program, and our coach never allowed us to miss. Our high school coach, I mean, it's the same
Same thing.
scenario,
This is the same
and I
thing.
don't understand why we're not treated the same
Yeah.
sometimes.
Yeah. Honestly, it should be, I mean, just that's my opinion, like, get treated like more. Like, you should. I
Y'all
don't know,
pay to be here.
You do. It's a lot of money. And not saying, like, the high school stuff and school stuff and anything outside is very important too, but it's a lot of money to be here.
Yeah.
And if you're not here, like, that's just, you're just throwing away
And
money.
like, in my opinion, I'm not saying like cheer's harder than other sports, because I do think majority of the sports are very, very difficult and they take a toll on your body and a lot of your energy and time. But when you do things that are like select baseball, select softball, volleyball, cheer, I feel like it's more competitive because like in school sports, you're only competing against the people in your district unless you make playoffs, and then you venture out to some of the other areas like in your state. But like select, you were playing people all across your entire state, which Texas is huge. And then on top of that, you travel out of state to compete against people in other states.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's more competitive, and I wish people also understood that like this isn't some little they learn a cheer routine
It's
and they
not
get
Pop
to
Warner,
do it
yeah.
in front of their parents and they get a little participation medal and no. I mean, we have a team like that. They're called Flamingos and they're 3 years old. But like our older kids, like the amount of things that they put their body through, like literal like tears, sweat, blood, like everything that they put their body through. And trust me, we feel it as older people. Like it's a lot. It's a lot. They put their heart and soul into it, just like somebody who's playing football or baseball or basketball or whatever it may be. It's the same, if not more, because they are going against a more variety and wide range of people.
Well, and the difference with like all-star cheer, select baseball, basketball, whatever, is you're also playing against the best of the best. Whereas in like junior high and high school, at least in Smithville, everybody makes a team.
Yeah.
Right.
You know, even especially if like you're a senior and you suck, you still make varsity.
Right.
Like they don't tell you can't be on the team. So it is what it is. But also when you do those select sports, you're adding a monetary value
Yeah.
that you don't have with school sports.
Yeah.
And granted, I hope nobody is listening to this saying that we don't value school sports, because we absolutely
We do.
I
We
was
all
a-
played them.
Yeah.
We did.
But in comparison to when I was in high school and my all-star cheer program, the all-star cheer is what was going to get me further than
Yep.
my school sports.
Yeah.
I feel
Agreed.
like we just have that industry knowledge, and like that's who they're competing against, or the people that are gonna go audition at these college teams. And
Absolutely.
because I mean it's the same with baseball. Like people that go play baseball in college, like they were on a select team.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there's maybe
Yeah.
maybe a few that came straight from high school.
Exactly.
And that's just raw talent.
Yeah.
That's that's out of the norm.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's the thing is we have kids who do competitive cheer that do not do school cheer. And it's not because they think school cheer is beneath them, but they know competitive cheer is what's going to get them to college. That's how they're going to be able to cheer in college. That's how they're going to get their scholarship. Like, so a lot of kids and parents will put the sport over other sports. And I just wish that other coaches would take the time to compromise with us so that they can not have to do that, you know?
And I also want to advocate for the kids that have chosen this as like their sport, either dance. So they quit school cheer. This is what they did. So if you do other sports, if you're a cheerleader outside of ACEs, or you do volleyball or all that good stuff, and you're absent, like that's not fair to the kids that they picked this sport. This is them. And so
Agreed.
you're not there for practice and they can't practice.
Yeah.
And so that's just not fair. And I experienced that a lot growing up, being here in Bastrop with dancing. And so my mom took me out of Bastrop and went to another studio where I was on a group of 9 girls that they didn't do anything else.
Except for dance.
Yeah, they just chose dance. And you just have to make those choices. And that's, I think, why, I mean, recreational is a thing. So that's some kids like want to do a school dance or school cheer and then just take tumbling here, and there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with
There's
that.
nothing
And
wrong
I
with
think
that.
that's very like encouraging. And same like we have like the prep teams and stuff like that, and it's less practices, or the half year teams, it's less practices. We work with you.
Yeah.
But if we can't work with you if you don't work with us.
I think the biggest thing to understand is, you know, we've learned that. And so we're actively building our half-year program and our novice program and our prep program, because we don't require the same attendance for those programs as we do our elite program. So that crazy attendance policy is only for our elite program. Our novice and our prep and our half-year have a much more lenient policy. So, like, there is a compromise. Like, if you want to do everything, but still also, you know, dabble in cheer, then those programs are for you. But you don't get the elite all-star experience at half of the commitment.
Right.
And so
I
I guess it's fair to say your teams are only as good as your attendance policy.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree because even though this past weekend our novice teams they both placed, our older novice teams both placed first, and they did really, really well this weekend, but their routines or level of difficulty or whatever is not as high.
They're not intricate. They're not.
It's not. The routines are very simple and just made to do well for them. And but when you look at the elite teams and people are like, oh wow, their routine has so much more. It's so much jam packed. It has all of this stuff, and it's yes, that's because they're here 3 days out of the week. And they have a 3 unexcused absence policy. They know they cannot miss. We have blackout week. They have to be here for blackout week. They cannot miss. That's why the routines of elite teams compared to novice teams or prep teams are different. If we had the same attendance policy for prep teams, their routines would be more intricate too.
Yeah.
But that's not what we do because we want to offer things for kids who also want to do dance or also want to do other sports. And so this is an option that we have for them. But yeah, that's why it's so different.
Too, our junior level 2 team this past competition had 14 teams in their division. Oh, wow. So imagine if we had a relaxed policy, we would have been 14th.
Yeah. Thank God we weren't.
Yeah.
But yeah, attendance is a big deal when it comes to these sports, whether, people outside of our little bubble, because cheer and dance is a bubble. Not many people know
there's still
the things that go on in our little bubble.
It's not a sport.
You just go out there and
y'all
twirl.
Just look pretty.
Yeah.
Cute,
It's all cute costumes and sparkles.
I love my dang
Sometimes.
sparkles, but I also like
Clean routine.
yelling at my athletes and telling them to get their life together and to look good, because guess what? If you were a select baseball player, your coach would be telling you the same thing.
Yeah, I literally
a lot meaner too.
Yeah, I told one of my dancers yesterday. I go, because we were talking about costumes and stuff. I go, I don't care what you wear. It's all about the routine. So you have to come to practice.
Yep.
Yep.
I just, I think a big takeaway from this is the attendance policy matters.
Yeah.
It matters. If your kid is here for practices, it matters. This is not a, come when you can,
Let me
it's not
introduce you
going to
to our
affect
half-year
you.
program.
Yeah. It's not going to affect the rest of the kids. And
And I wish, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
you're fine.
I was going to say, because we were talking about it, parents don't realize that the way their attendance is this year, it will affect what it looks like next year.
Yes.
On which team they're on.
Yeah.
Because, we're living and learning.
We've had kids in the past who were consistently missing practices, and telling us last second, even though in the attendance policy we would express to them this is unexcused. Well, it's fine. Well, I'm glad you think it's fine. Your child will not be on a summit team next year. It matters, because if I have Miss Sally, who's at every single practice, puts in the work, wants her team to be amazing, and then I have Miss Holly, who shows up when she wants, mom doesn't care if it's unexcused, you're gonna have to suck it up type of thing, and they're on the same team, Miss Sally ain't gonna be happy about it.
Yeah.
And I think,
Sally's mama ain't gonna be happy
Yeah.
that Miss Holly is missing.
Yeah, I think the thing is you have to have the right community to match your attendance policy. So, when we introduced this attendance policy last season, we lost a couple kids, and then even more so, we didn't lose kids, but we kind of weeded some out. Some, we gained some too. But, the parents we have now so far, our attendance policy, we've had to throw that out very little times, and because all of our parents are bought into the program, they understand what the attendance policy is about.
They want everyone there.
That in order to be successful, those are the things that we have to do.
Yeah.
So, if you want an elite all-star program who's winning NCAA, cheer sport, all the competitions they go to, I can guarantee that they have an attendance policy that's pretty strict.
Yeah.
If you just want to do this as a pastime, you know, at least we're not the program for you.
Yeah, or do
Or half year is.
do recreational. Just
Yeah.
do the tumbling. If you like to be here and be a part of the Aces fam, just do that. Or do the half
Yeah.
year team.
Yep.
It's
I
a
agree.
commitment. It's like getting a puppy. You
Yeah.
have, like you can't put it back once you've already committed to it,
Yeah.
or you can't take it back to the shelter. Like
And
you
we're kind of already having issues with that right now. And I pretty much was like, nope, sorry. You have to be here.
yeah.
Sorry, don't know what to tell you. You knew this was your obligation.
You drank the
You have to
water.
be here.
Yeah.
Drank the water.
usually when
You
we
drank
tell
the
parents
Kool-Aid,
that
the
now-
gold glittery Kool-Aid.
Yeah, but usually when we tell parents now, they're like, okay, I tried. And we're
Yeah.
like, cool, see you at practice.
I think that's what it is they at least try and ask and see if it's even possible. And then we're like,
If
no.
we
They're like,
slept
okay,
really
we'll be
good
there.
that night, I'm like,
Yeah.
no.
They're like, okay, we'll be there.
mood
I'm
is
so
she-
sorry.
yeah,
I'm so
yeah.
sorry. You
Don't
even
ask
asked.
me right
Don't
now. Oh goodness.
But yeah.
Yeah, so moral of the story is your teams are only as good as your attendance policy. If you want to be a great program, I mean, I can guarantee that attendance policy is the first stepstone to having a good program.
Yep.
Agreed. Thanks. Until next time, keep your coffee. I was like, are we switching it up? No, hold on. Anything.
Okay, here we go. Until next time.
Keep your coffee hot.
And your toes pointed.
Bye. Oh my gosh, I hate us.
We were all hot mess on this one.
But I liked it. It was fun.